The clock struck midnight in Atmore, Alabama on May 10, 2002. Inside the thick walls of Holman Correctional Facility, a 54-year-old woman named Linda Lyon Block is entering the final moments of her life. She's about to become the first woman to be executed in Alabama in 45 years, a period so long that most people in this state have never witnessed a woman being executed by the state. But that's not the only thing that makes tonight special. Linda Block is also about to become the last person in the United States to be executed by electric chair without the option of choosing another method of death. After her death, no one else had to face Yellow Mama, Alabama's infamous electric chair, unless they actively requested it. Yellow Mama is not a random name. This chair is painted yellow and was Alabama's official execution tool for decades. It took the lives of dozens of death row inmates. Each time the lever was pulled, a 2,000-volt current surged through the human body for a terrifying few seconds. Witnesses always describe the scene as something unforgettable. The smell of burning flesh, the final cries, bodies convulsing in leather straps. And tonight, Yellow Mama will perform her final mission by force. 9 years earlier, on October 4, 1993, Linda Block shot and killed police officer Roger Motley right in the parking lot of the Walmart supermarket in Opelika. That police officer was just doing his job, checking on the condition of a 9-year-old boy who seemed to be in danger. Instead of cooperation, Motley received bullets in return. But what makes this story truly strange lies in a painful paradox. Before becoming a police killer, Linda Block was a rescuer of abused individuals. She was once an investigator for the Humane Society, tracking down animal abusers. She volunteers at the library and participates in political campaigns. People see her as someone who cares about making the world a better place. So how does an animal lover become a cold-blooded killer? How could a woman who spent her life helping helpless creatures shoot a police officer who was trying to save a child? The answer lies within an extreme ideology that Linda Block and her partner George Sibley adhere to. They belong to a peculiar group called sovereign citizens. These people believe that the U.S. government has no authority over them. Block and Sibley destroyed their driver's licenses, birth certificates, and social security cards. They declared they were no longer American citizens. In their minds, this is not a crime. It's a fight for freedom. As Block sat tightly bound to the electric chair that night, one question remained unanswered. Are you a dangerous extremist who got what you deserved? Is she a woman pushed too far by a system she no longer trusts? The truth can be shocking. Linda Cheryl Lyon was born on February 8, 1948, in Orlando, Florida, to Francis Frank Lyon and Beryline Owen. From the very beginning, life didn't give Linda the best. When he was only 10 years old, tragedy struck. Her father, Frank, passed away suddenly from heart failure. Losing her father at such a young age, too young to fully understand the meaning of death, left deep and lasting scars on Linda's soul, scars that would never heal. But her pain didn't stop there. Beryline's mother was not a compassionate woman. According to Linda's later account, this mother was both physically and emotionally abusive. The mother and daughter were never truly close. Growing up in a home devoid of love or safety shaped Linda into someone who was always searching for something better, a search that would ultimately lead her into darkness. Psychologists have studied cases like Linda's. Children who lose their parents early and suffer abuse often develop abnormal defense mechanisms. They might become extreme in protecting themselves or seek powerful role models to replace what they've lost. Linda had only one bright spot in her dark childhood, her sister Denise, born in 1952. The two girls clung to each other in the broken house, but even that sisterly bond couldn't heal the wounds being inflicted every day. When she grew up, Linda made a shocking decision. She married Carl Block, an 80-year-old man. Carl is a former Army veteran who lost his son in a tragic car accident. Some people believe Linda is looking for the image of the father she lost at the age of 10. An older, experienced man could bring her a sense of security she's never had. But this marriage didn't last. They divorced in December 1991, leaving Linda with a new void and a simmering resentment that would later explode. After the divorce, Linda moved to Key West, Florida. This is where people witnessed a completely different side of her. She became known for helping others, especially animals that couldn't protect themselves. Linda works as a secretary for the Humane Society. She also became an animal abuse investigator, tracking down those who torment innocent creatures. Her second husband later, George Sibley, said that helping others was part of Linda's nature. Perhaps this is how she makes up for what she didn't receive in her childhood, by giving what she never had. But Linda didn't stop at animals. She jumped into community work with enthusiasm. She served for 2 consecutive years as president of the Friends of the Library, organizing cultural events and promoting reading. She even worked as the communications director for a mayoral candidate. During this period, Linda began to take a deep interest in politics. She published a political magazine called Liberatus, a name derived from Latin, implying freedom and liberation. Through this work, her anti-government views began to form and develop. Conspiracy theories about state power, about government control, gradually crept into her mind. In 1992, Linda met George Sibley. He shared her growing hatred of the government. They became partners in life and in extreme beliefs. Together, they joined the Sovereign Citizens Movement, a group of people who believe they are not subject to U.S. law. They think they can create their own laws. But their anti-government views soon turned violent. In August 1992, Linda and George broke into the apartment of Linda's ex-husband, Carl. They tied him to a chair, gagged him, and demanded he stop trying to reclaim their home in a property dispute. Then, Linda pulled out a knife and stabbed the 80-year-old man in the chest, the man she used to call her husband. Carl survived because his neighbors discovered him and called for emergency services in time. But this attack changed everything. Now, Linda and George are fugitive criminals. They have no way out. And the road ahead only led to a Walmart parking lot and a police officer trying to save a child. Roger Motley is the kind of police officer every community needs. He works for the Opelika Police Department in Alabama and considers his job a mission, not just a way to make a living. Roger's not someone who gets paid without fulfilling his responsibilities. You really care about protecting people. At home, Roger is Juanita's devoted husband, and his colleagues respect him as someone they can rely on in any situation. He's the kind of person who would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it, a detail that takes on tragic symbolism when you remember what happened next. On October 4th, 1993, Roger was just doing what he always did, caring for others. A concerned citizen called to report a child who appeared to be in danger. The caller thought the 9-year-old boy might need help. Roger reacted immediately, as that's what a good police officer is supposed to do. He didn't know he was walking into a deadly trap. At that time, Linda Block and George Sibley were living like hunted animals. They did not appear at the sentencing hearing in Florida after attacking Carl Block. Now, they are fugitive criminals, camping in their car at the Walmart parking lot in Opelika. With them was Linda's 9-year-old son. Imagine being a child forced to live in a car because your mother and her boyfriend are criminals on the run from the law. A passerby noticed something was wrong. The child looked worried, as if they needed help. That kind-hearted person thought this family might be homeless and living in their car. They called the police because they were worried about the boy's safety. Sergeant Roger Motley answered the call. He was asked to check for potential child welfare situations at Walmart. Roger had no idea he was about to face 2 armed extremists who believed they were above the law. When Sergeant Motley arrived at the parking lot, he found Sibley's car parked behind the store. He approached the car and asked George Sibley to present his driver's license. This might seem like a common request, but George Sibley is not an ordinary person. He started explaining his crazy theory that he didn't need a driver's license. Sibley believes the government has no authority over him. He thinks he can drive without following the rules like everyone else. While Sibley rambled on about his anti-government beliefs, Sergeant Motley began to worry. The situation is becoming tense. Motley moved his hand toward his weapon, perhaps sensing danger. That's when things got bad. George Sibley suddenly pulled out his gun and started shooting at the police officer. Motley fired back, hitting and wounding Sibley. Then, Motley took cover behind the patrol car as bullets flew every place. While the shootout was happening, Linda Block was at a nearby public phone booth. When she heard the gunshots, she knew her partner was in trouble. Instead of running away or trying to smooth things over, Linda makes a deadly choice. She drew her gun and ran toward the fighting. Witnesses later said they saw her fall into a low crouch as if she had been trained for combat. When Sergeant Motley turned back to face this new threat, Linda Block opened fire. Her bullet hit him in the chest. The police officer gave his bulletproof vest to another officer that day, a decision that cost him his life. Motley fell to the ground, seriously injured. Instead of helping the dying police officer or calling an ambulance, Linda and George fled the scene. They left Sergeant Roger Motley bleeding in the Walmart parking lot. A kind man who was just trying to help a child is now dying because two criminals thought they were above the law. After the shooting, police quickly arrested Linda Block and George Sibley. Both are charged with capital murder, the most serious crime in Alabama. If convicted, they could face the death penalty. But from the moment they were arrested, Block and Sibley refused to cooperate. The court appointed a defense attorney for them, but the couple refused to work with their own lawyer. They have their own twisted ideas about how the law works. Block and Sibley claimed that Alabama had no right to try them. They argue that the state government is illegitimate and has no authority over them. Their reason is completely crazy. They say that Alabama was never legally readmitted to the United States after the Civil War ended in 1865. Just think about how ridiculous this sounds. They're saying that for over 100 years, Alabama wasn't really a part of the United States. According to their logic, the Alabama court couldn't try them because Alabama isn't even a real state. The couple also claimed they shot Sergeant Motley in self-defense. They say they are protecting themselves from government tyranny. In their minds, a police officer asking for a driver's license is the same as a government attack on their freedom. During the trial, prosecutors were unable to prove exactly who fired the shot that killed Sergeant Motley. Both Block and Sibley had guns, and both shot at the police officer. But that didn't matter to the jury. Both defendants were convicted of special murder and sentenced to death. The judge and jury were not interested in their anti-government theories. They didn't care that Block and Sibley thought Alabama wasn't a real state. The legal reality is very simple. They killed a police officer, and they will pay the ultimate price. On December 21, 1994, Linda Block entered Alabama's death row. She was assigned prisoner number Z575 and sent to Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women in Wetumpka, Alabama. The death row for women is different from the area for men. There are fewer female prisoners, but the conditions are just as harsh. Block is held in a maximum security area, spending most of his time alone in a small cell. For over 7 years, Block lived with the awareness that one day the state would kill her. But even in the face of death, she never abandoned her anti-government beliefs. She continued to declare that Alabama had no right to detain or execute her. The other prisoners probably that she was crazy. This is a woman who can spend time trying to reconcile with what she's done. Instead, she continued to insist that the government was fake and that she was innocent. Blocked the tracking as other death row inmates come and go. Some were given reduced sentences, others were executed. But Block remained stubborn, refusing to admit he had done anything wrong. As the execution date approaches, most death row inmates will hire the best lawyers they can find. They will file continuous appeals, trying anything to save their lives. But Linda Block is different. She chose to represent herself in the final appeals. This is like performing surgery on yourself. Technically possible, but almost certainly a disaster. Block has no legal training and doesn't understand how the appeals process actually works. Block wrote a 2-page handwritten letter to Alabama Governor Don Siegelman seeking a pardon. In the letter, she requested the governor appoint a 7-member board to review her case. She declared that she and George Sibley had been unfairly prosecuted. Governor Siegelman read her request and denied it. He found no mitigating circumstances that could justify sparing her life. He also found no issues with the evidence that convicted her. Then, something shocking happened. George Sibley, the man who claimed to love Block, betrayed her. He filed his own appeal with the Alabama Supreme Court, claiming that Block, not he, fired the shot that killed Sergeant Motley. Sibley is trying to save his own life by pushing his partner into the abyss. After years of standing together against the government, he's now ready to let Block die alone. All of Block's appeals were dismissed. The The court has heard enough about your sovereign citizen theories. Her execution was scheduled for May 10, 2002. On her last day alive, Linda Block was transferred from Julia Tutwiler Prison to Holman Correctional Facility near Atmore. This is where Alabama carries out executions. 3 close friends visited Block for a few hours on her last day. These are the people who still care about her even after everything she's done. They spent precious time talking, perhaps sharing memories of better days. Block also met with a spiritual advisor. Many people facing execution try to reconcile with God in their final hours. The advisor is there to help you prepare for whatever comes after death. Prison officials offered Block a final meal, a tradition that allows condemned prisoners to choose whatever they want to eat before they die. But Block refused. She doesn't want anything special. Perhaps she's lost her appetite. Or perhaps this is just another way to show defiance. Block also declined to make a final statement. Most people facing execution use their final words to apologize to the victim's family, say goodbye to loved ones, or declare their innocence. But Block remained silent. Even at the end, she didn't want to give the system the satisfaction of hearing her speak. At midnight on May 10, 2002, Linda Block was strapped into Alabama's electric chair. At exactly 12 a.m., prison officials pulled the switch. Electricity ran through Block's body while she was tied to the wooden chair. The current was designed to stop her heart and end her life quickly. Alabama Department of Corrections. Commissioner Mike Haley oversaw the execution. Then he said that Block never showed any emotion, not even at the end. Her eyes were completely empty, as if she wasn't even there anymore. Sergeant Motley's widow, Juanita, had planned to watch her husband's killer die. But when prison officials put hoods over the heads of the Block, Juanita couldn't bear it. She requested an officer to escort her out of the witness room. At 12 a.m., doctors declared Linda Block dead. She was electrocuted for exactly 9 minutes. Block became the last person in the United States to be executed by electric chair without the option of lethal injection as an alternative. 3 years later, on August 4, 2005, George Sibley followed his partner into the grave. But unlike Block, Sibley was executed by lethal injection. Block's execution left a tragic victim, her own son. The 9-year-old boy who was in the Walmart parking lot is now a teenager who witnessed his mother become a murderer and then be executed by the state. Imagine growing up with that burden. Looking back at the life and death of Linda Block, we are left with difficult questions that have no easy answers. This is a woman who has spent many years investigating animal abuse and protecting creatures that cannot protect themselves. She works for the library and helps with political campaigns. But in the end, she shot a police officer who was trying to save a child. That paradox is the final lesson Linda Block left behind, that kindness and cruelty can coexist in the same person, and the line between rescuer and killer is sometimes frighteningly thin.